Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission in the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the opening missions to Halo 2, The Heretic, The Armory, and Cairo Station on the next episode. This episode, we are actually comparing Bungie's bookends. We're going to be finishing up Halo CE, our discussion about that. We'll be talking about Halo Reach and what makes these games unique in their own way, which one's better. I don't know. Opinions will be shared, and hopefully we'll still all be friends at the end of the show. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, along with David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krysta Brown.
Reach for the win, except didn't they lose?
Oh, they did.
Oh, shit. Spoilers.
So we're going to start off. We haven't done Terminal 11 yet. We kind of teased that in the last episode, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, we just kind of want to talk about Halo CE as a whole game. Our thoughts on the whole story, the whole experience, what it meant for the industry and Xbox and all that sort of stuff. David, you're a big fan of this game.
I am the biggest fan of this game.
The biggest fan. Why are you such a big fan of Halo CE?
I don't know. It's such a huge game for me in terms of when it came out, when I got it, the uncountable number of hours played in it, all the kind of variety and just how many legs it has. I mean, it still holds up. I mean, they've remade it 3 times, essentially, or they've made it 3 times, essentially. So, it's beautiful. Okay, it is not without its flaws. Other later games did other things better than this game did, but I still enjoy it. I still love going back and playing it in the Master Chief Collection.
You've mentioned before a big part of the game was kind of playing with friends, right? There's a couple of missions you said that you like playing. In particular, there's just so many different ways to play the game in general. I've mentioned it before. There's this fun game to play. You can shoot aliens, have fun with friends, drive a tank every once in a while. And then there's all this lore stuff, and that's the reason that we're here. So it's just a deep experience where you may not come away with that if you just kind of glanced at it or just saw somebody playing it. You wouldn't realize there's so much to the game.
Not at all. And even like when I first played it, I was not as interested in the lore as I was like at later stages. It was many years later where I actually started to care really more about the lore than when I actually initially played it.
Krysta, you've kind of grown up with the game, right? You played it when you were very young. Have your thoughts about CE changed over time?
I mean, unfortunately, when you're like 5-6 years old playing a game like this, you don't see the game like, people in college saw the game or adults saw the game. It was literally just like a playground for us. I mean, we would, drop on the mission Halo and we would literally just run around the environment.
Right.
And like, make fun of each other and shoot each other and stuff like that. So we didn't play the game traditionally most of the time. Most of the time we just go on to Blood Gulch and, play in the caves and stuff like that and, flip the warthogs and just a dumb shit like that. It was more of like a space to like play with our imaginations in a virtual space kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we would make up like battle scenarios where, oh my god, I'm on red team and you're on blue team. It was red versus blue before red versus blue was a thing. So we would have like battle strategies and weird shit like that. Because we were kids. I mean, we didn't really care about the gameplay itself. We didn't really care about the story itself. So, and I didn't have an Xbox growing up. This was the kids across the street from me. So, I didn't have any time that I could play the game solo. So, as I grew up, I didn't hang out with them as much. So I didn't get Halo 2 when it first came out and Halo 3 when it first came out and stuff like that. So I really didn't re-enter the series until like ODST Reach-ish when I finally got an Xbox 360. And that is when I went back and played CE, went back and played all the Halos, and then, at the time, my friend, one of my friends, just said, "Hey, there are novels," and then they got me the box set of novels, and that's what really sparked the interest in the lore. So it took me a while to actually get into the lore. Maybe, I don't know, how long did it take you, David?
I'd say years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Halo 2 was out. I don't know if Halo 3 was out before I actually read Halo Reach, which was my first novel, and it was my cousin that bought me that for my birthday one year. And I didn't even know there was novels, or if I did know it, it never really dawned on me to be interested in it. She got it for me. I read it. Totally loved it. Totally loved the whole vibe of everything in the background being inside John's head. Just totally opens up the wealth of richness of this character that you don't get in the games, and I really enjoyed that. I liked how much I like replaying the games with the knowledge from the books, and just things become more significant and quotes become more significant, and it adds that kind of vibe, that extra level. It's why I enjoy the Assassin's Creed games as well, and their books.
But you, David, you played CE first, right? That was your first Halo game?
Yes, CE is my first Halo game on a friend's Xbox.
And Krysta, Halo CE was your first Halo game too, right?
It was my first video game in general.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I know.
Halo CE, I didn't come to Halo CE for a while. I played Halo 3 first.
Oh, that's so weird.
And then I played Halo ODST, and then didn't really, the franchise didn't really hook me until I think I realized how much lore there was just from surfing on the internet, and I got hyped for Halo 4, was interested in that. And then at that point, I decided to commit and say, okay, I know this is a good game, but this lore is really intriguing. So then I went back and kind of played everything in order, and started to get into the lore and all that sort of stuff.
What was it like coming to Halo CE so late? What did you make of it after playing other games in the series first?
It was good. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to kind of bring it back to just kind of recapping Halo CE. I enjoyed it, and looking at it, the way I look at it is it does a great job of setting the stage. We played this game in chronological order, but I wouldn't recommend that. I would definitely play CE first. You get to know about kind of where the game came from, the technology that they were playing with at the time. It's a solid shooter at any stage of the game. It's still a solid shooter, but they also do lay this foundation of the universe really well, and they just the introduction of the Flood itself, and how they've carried that importance through the entire franchise. The Flood continues as we continue to talk into Halo 2 and whatnot. It's a big deal, and all that was in that original package. And I think that they did a great job of that. And we'll talk in a little bit about kind of our comparisons between Reach and CE. But yeah, I mean, I love the game, but I do think other games do different things better, to your point, David, earlier. What do you guys think about the other thing you mentioned is kind of all the iterations, right? So there was the original Halo CE. They then 10 years later they did the anniversary, and then the game that we played was when was MCC released? In 2014?
Yes.
2014, 2015-ish.
Yeah, so a couple years later is when they then released Halo CE Anniversary as a part of the Master Chief Collection. So it has kind of been done 3 times, 4 times, I guess, if you consider they're cleaning up some other things on the whole MCC package. But it's interesting to kind of see how they've, improved it or continued to treat it over time. And it is the biggest franchise that Xbox has, right? I mean, this is the pillar of
Gears of War has gone up there through the years. They're almost side by side, but I always feel like Master Chief is a little more iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too.
The franchise itself, if you do go look up the most, I think either money making or the franchises that are worth the most, Halo is in the conversation with Marvel and Star Wars and all that. They're not that high up there, but they are that to that level, I guess. They're very important to Microsoft, more so than
they're
Gears.
Recognizable.
The universe is bigger. There's more assets. There's more to do. There's more Halo than any other game that they own.
I'd agree.
Yeah. Krysta, you mentioned before the show some of the kind of the interesting things from CE that maybe got dropped or have gotten brought back in. Anything come to mind that we want to touch on quickly before we go on to Terminal?
Well, some of the interesting things about CE is that it was originally made for the Mac.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
It was at a Mac conference with it was like did Bill Gates do it?
Mm-hmm.
Do the conference? Yeah. Yep. If you watch it, it's super weird and awkward. But
or not Bill Gates. It was
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Yeah, Steve Jobs. So at that point, Halo CE was like a walk around, open worldy kind of more of an RPG. Yeah, RTS. Yeah, top down, which was strange. It's really strange to go back and look at that iteration of the game. And so of course eventually Microsoft ended up buying the franchise and buying Bungie, which is why it became its flagship title when the Xbox announced. And honestly, I don't think the Xbox would have survived without Halo as their launch title. I don't think any other game could have done that.
Well, because that was a gamble, right? I mean, they didn't know that they knew it was a good game, but they didn't realize it was going to be what it is today by any means.
Oh, no, I don't think so, but...
Well, and also, they were going up against Nintendo and PlayStation 2? Was it GameCube and PlayStation 2 at the time?
PlayStation
I don't know.
2, yes. Yep, PlayStation
GameCube
2.
wasn't out yet, I don't think.
Okay, so it was the one before that. 64 and 64?
And 64, yeah.
Yeah.
And those two were fiercely
Juggernauts.
Battling it out. They were They like Sega had kind of fallen to Sega and Atari had kind of fallen to the wayside at that point, and they were just duking it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Microsoft says, "Oh, we're gonna make one too," and everybody's like, "An American company can't make a game console. What are you talking about? That's insane." And then Halo came out, and the only thing people said is, "Have you played Halo yet?"
Mm-hmm.
But
it was huge from a community standpoint too. I was in college. I didn't play it in college, but I do remember stories of everybody playing Halo in the dorm room and things like that. And just that community multiplayer, local multiplayer aspect is one of the things that helped catapult Halo into just the mind share of the video game gamers at the time and just the video game industry. Just that multiplayer aspect was so huge for them.
Well, and Halo was one of the first multiplayer shooters that actually worked well with a controller. And I think it was because of aim assist. I think aim assist was pretty new technology, and Halo implemented it so that it literally, you didn't have to aim with the controller as much. If you notice, sometimes the controller will move towards an enemy on its own. That's the aim assist. So it made it easier to control and aim with a controller, which at the time most shooters were on PC, which was basically point and shoot with the mouse. And
aim assist is still alive today, alive and thriving.
Oh, if you're playing a shooter on a console, it has aim assist. But one of the interesting lore bits we were talking about was in the original demo of Halo CE, they showed this crazy, like, gray Cyclops-looking creature called a Sharkoi, which was kind of comparable to a hunter, but bigger than a hunter. And then, of course, at the, when the game came out for Xbox, it was completely cut. But if you read a little novel, one of the Halo novels, they are back. So that was kind of an interesting callback to Combat Evolved. It's in Halo Envoy, a little bit of a spoiler, but it's kind of...
They also brought in, do you remember, I don't know, maybe we've talked about this numerous times before, but that demo that you can still see on YouTube, Chief, or who would be Chief, was riding this two-legged creature, like a mount.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, that thing is called, like, a blind wolf, essentially. So they brought those back in Hunters in the Dark. In the story, it's about Vale. They go back to the Ark and stuff like that, and these creatures are there. So, like, they've brought them back into the lore as well.
Those were the little, like, dinosaur things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two-legged creature thing with no eyes. I think they have no eyes. They're weird creatures.
Hunters in the Dark was pretty interesting. It had a lot of interesting stuff to it, but it kind of flopped. But it's good. It's all of the Halo novels are good. Some are just better than others.
Yeah, and I mean that's just kind of those are a couple of examples of things they're bringing back to the forefront because the franchise has lived so long because of this original game and how well they just how good that original package was.
Speaking of original packages, because yeah, that's funny. Because Halo C was supposed to be kind of a roaming open worldy game. Do you think that's kind of the inspiration for Halo Infinite? We don't know anything about it, but
interesting. Could be. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Ooh,
wouldn't doubt it. It's evolved back to.
But now we're but now we're infinitely off topic.
That's right. All right, let's talk anything else. Otherwise, let's do Terminal 11.
Okay.
And
we're good.
So we'll talk Terminal 11 quickly, and that helps set up Halo 2. And then once we talk Terminal 11,
Halo.
Then we'll go back, and then we're going to talk kind of just comparison between Halo Reach and C and our thoughts between those, since we've played those two. So Terminal 11, Krysta, do you have that up?
Yes, I do.
All right.
So if you have noticed while watching the terminals, there have been strange symbols popping up on the screen through every terminal. It's one of the first things you see. So back in the day when Halo Reach was coming out and they came out with the Halo CE map packs, the Halo CE map packs and then Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, I think they were kind of the same time. But you had a chance to go on to Halo Waypoint on the Xbox 360 app, and you could actually type in all of these symbols, and it would give you like something crazy like 100,000 XP for Halo Reach, and it would unlock Super Secret Terminal 11. Ooh. So, I know, very interesting, huh? So a lot of people actually overlook this and don't know it exists. You can find it on YouTube in all different shapes and sizes. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. It's super interesting, but it basically follows Guilty Spark after his ring has, shit the bucket. But he's leaving the ring. He's really mad, and then he finds a mining facility on the nearby gas giant. It's called a gas mine.
Cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But if you have
gas.
already played Halo 2, this structure will look very, very familiar to you. And if you haven't, you don't know what I'm talking about. But Guilty Spark comes in, he greets the Covenant who are fighting and start fighting him. They duke it out a little bit. Guilty Spark uses his face laser. Mm-hmm. Best face laser. And then one of the Sangheili, stops the Kigyar and the Ungoi, the Jackals and the Grunts, from attacking him and bring them to their leader, which is Sessa Rafume, who becomes very, very important in Halo 2. And this is basically a conversation where he's like, "You are an oracle from the gods, and we will do the great journey." And Guilty Spark's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Mm-hmm. And Rafume says, "Oh, but the rings are supposed to hold our salvation." And Guilty Spark's like, "You were told that by whom? Anyone who told you that is either a fool or quite mad." I like that jab to the prophets.
Yep.
Mm.
And then he just explains, the installation is a tool to destroy everything the Flood feeds on. And, at this point, the Sangheili only know what the prophets have told them, and the prophets have only told them that it will lead to their salvation. So hearing an actual Forerunner construct tell him exactly what the rings are supposed to do, that they are supposed to just destroy everything, Rafume decides to shut down all lines to the fleet and then talk to the Oracle or Guilty Spark even further about, what is the ring's actual purpose. And this is kind of Guilty Spark sowing the seeds of actual understanding. Yeah, a huge plot point.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about the the Covenant proper. Have we talked about the Covenant proper with like the
I don't
prophets?
think so.
Because we'll cover that in Halo 2 because it's obviously a huge part of it.
We'll actually probably get to it at the very first episode of season 2 or 3. We'll have to. So
yeah, I mean, I think what we've explained essentially, you probably know this if you've already played, all the games, but the Covenant are driven just by a zealot a zealot group, essentially. They're religion-based exploration and trying to dominate all other species based off this religious prophecy, essentially. And we'll get way more into it in Halo 2, but yeah.
And the most recent episode of Podcast Evolved proper actually had a little lore segment on the prophets themselves, some of the early history, so go ahead and listen to that. But also, if you want to know more about the Covenant origins and stuff like that, the book Contact Harvest really tells you a lot about, the Great Journey, how the prophecy came about, and why the Covenant is attacking humans, which is never explained properly in the games.
Broken Circle is also a good one for that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of stuff in there.
The other thing I find interesting about Terminal 11 is we never really set out, as Chief, so at the end of the game, end of Halo CE, we never set out to destroy, take out, kill 343 Guilty Spark specifically. We knew who was the bad guy. You couldn't actually shoot him in the game, but the conversation between Cortana and Chief was never, we need to destroy 343, we just need to destroy the ring. And
well, without the ring, Guilty Spark basically doesn't have anything.
Right.
But also, I think it's pretty obvious that Guilty Spark is literally just a machine following protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he has personality and a little bit of will of his own, but he is literally tied to, what he was told to do by the Forerunners hundreds of thousands of years ago. Yeah,
that's a good point. But anyway, this bridges the gap between, one of the gaps between Halo CE and Halo 2. So 343 is alive, and he's talking to this offshoot of the Covenant and telling them the truth, essentially. So we'll see how that folds into Halo 2.
I just love how perplexed Guilty Spark is every time someone mentions the Great Journey. He's like, what the hell are you people talking about?
Yeah.
They're just so confused.
Yeah, I agree. Anything to add, David, before we talk just kind of comparison-wise?
Nope, it's pretty cool.
All right.
It's I didn't know about it for the longest time. I was one of those people that missed it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch that all those little numbers were codes to do things.
God, what a loser.
I know.
If only there was a place that you could go on the internet that had all of this information.
I know.
Well, the thing about Terminal 11, it wasn't widely circulated for a long time. It took people a hot second to figure out exactly what to do and to find, because the place where you typed in the symbols wasn't easily found on the app, because the app wasn't very good back then.
Yeah.
But you had to find it in this slew of menus you had to go through. And then you had to connect that, I need to go through the terminals and type the terminals in and stuff like that. So it took a while for it to get regularly circulated with the lore fans, because the other fans don't. People who just play the game will never find it.
Right. All right, so let's talk about Halo Reach and Halo CE. So we played these games in chronological order, which is backwards from when they were made. Halo's first game was CE. In the Halo universe, Bungie's last game was Halo Reach, and there's about 10 years between the two. So there's a lot of changes that took place, but Halo Reach is a prequel. In Halo Reach, we suited up as Noble 6 and are deployed with a team of Spartans to do everything we can to repel the invading Covenant force before we essentially have to admit defeat and help the Pillar of Autumn escape from the planet's glassing. In Halo CE, we then carry on. So that's where we started Bungie's journey. We drop out of slip space, explore the mysterious Halo ring that Cortana randomly, quote-unquote, randomly brought us to. And then as Master Chief, we discover the Flood and then realize the impact of the Flood, and we need to destroy the ring in order to save all of life in the galaxy. So we've played them kind of in the backwards order of when they were created. So I think I want to have the conversation about kind of all the elements that make up a game as we're talking about the two, now that we've played the two complete experiences. So gameplay-wise, David, how are you feeling about gameplay-wise from Halo CE to Halo Reach? We played Halo Reach first. You love Halo CE so much. Now that you've played them both back-to-back within over the last couple months, how are you feeling about the two?
Pretty good. It's an interesting way to play them. I don't think I've ever played them like that, gone from Reach straight into CE. I do like that the trailer, the cutscenes kind of overlap. I like that. Mm-hmm. Which we talked about in the last episode.
There's a lot of cool moments, right, where you can be like, oh yeah, right. There's some realizations that take place.
Just thinking about the gameplay, it plays very much kind of the same, even with such large gaps in time. And Bungie did change a good bit in how Reach kind of plays. I think, like everyone said, like armor abilities, they were the big thing, and you know, they do change it up. So I mean, having a jetpack obviously changes how you play the game. A few of the other kind of armor mods aren't that that I don't want to try to say like impactful, I guess, and into how you actually play, other than like
armor lock.
Armor lock, yeah. I mean, some cool stuff. I like them. The additions. I mean,
some of them are kind of like a Halo purist, I guess. So you can appreciate Halo Reach for what it is. You don't
exactly. Yeah, I didn't mind it. I mean, I don't play it competitively, so I can understand if people don't like certain additions because they change up how the game plays online and stuff like that. I understand that much. But because I don't, I'm okay with it. With how they play. If I had a preference, I don't know. I'd probably still say CE, but they are very similar in how they play. Do you know what I mean? It's the same two weapons, first person shooter. There isn't a whole lot different.
Well, gameplay is kind of a loaded question, and I have kind of some bullets here below. It's like you know, it's how the game feels, how the game plays, but then you have to fold in the weapons, the vehicles, the enemies. So I kind of have all those as talking points for us to discuss. That's true. There's just so much that goes into that general gameplay aspect of it. Krysta, which gameplay do you like better? One or the other?
I think Halo Reach is, I mean, like David said, Bungie did a really good job at changing up certain elements of Halo, but also keeping the core feel of Halo. So everything really feels very similar. I mean, you kind of trudge around similarly, you jump, just stuff like that, and then they add the elements of armor abilities and stuff. I definitely think that Halo Reach is definitely more updated and intuitive than Halo CE.
Sure.
But for the time, you can appreciate that Halo CE did have revolutionary controls for the time. But, I mean, they're 10 years apart, so it's really hard to, I mean, of course Halo Reach has the better gameplay.
That's my thought. I mean, it's an evolution, and it's like saying what's better between a game that's a 9 and a 10, you know? I mean, they started the gameplay at such a high bar that from my perspective, they definitely improved on it in Reach, but it wasn't coming from a place of bad gameplay, I guess, or like loose shooting to tight shooting. You know, shooting was tight, they just enhanced it over time. And, you know, I playing them back to back like this, there were some things, you know, like the jumping's way more floaty in CE, and I tend to like, you know, how Halo Reach handles that sort of things. I like I guess we can talk about some of the variety now. You know, there's the weapon variety, vehicle variety. Obviously, you have the additional years of learning to slowly add those things. There's something to be said about the simplicity of Halo C, and when you find a shotgun, how awesome that is, because that's, you know, just one of the handful of weapons that you have, and it is so powerful. But then when you go to Halo Reach, there are a lot of different weapons that can do something similar. So from that standpoint, I do like the fact that they added those additions. They added them smartly. I prefer Reach's gameplay to Halo C just because of all of those enhancements that they made over time. Vehicle wise, well, let's talk quickly about weapons. What's your favorite weapon in Halo C, David?
Hands down, the Magnum.
Magnum. Krysta, Magnum?
Yeah.
The Magnum, yeah. I mean, that is the gun.
It's got to be the gun, right? I mean, shotgun, you use the shotgun a lot towards the end. So I would make an argument for shotgun because it is so handy against the flood.
Well, the shotgun is also super ridiculous in this game, too. It's like, I'm across the room,
God,
and
shotgun.
I'm going to kill you with the shotgun in one shot.
It is beautiful.
Yeah. How about reach? Anything pop off top of your mind, Krysta, reach-wise?
Needle rifle.
Needle rifle, yeah.
God, I love that thing.
Yeah, me too. Needle rifle for reach.
The thing is so cool.
Mm-hmm. I think we talked about, during the reach season, the sniper rifle and how it sounded and how it felt.
Mm-hmm.
And it destroyed vehicles, which was great, especially in multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're driving a tank and then you get shot 4 times with a sniper rifle and you're dead.
Right.
Which is, I think, in the canonically said it was armor-piercing bullets. So, I mean, the Halo Reach sniper rifle is super beefy, which is awesome. It's just, since then, the games like Halo 4 and 5, you pick up the sniper and you're like, I can't do shit with this.
What else can we compare? So, assault rifle. Do you have a preference on assault rifle, David? Which, between the two games?
Well, Halo Reach or in Halo CE, it's pretty useless. It's not a great weapon.
I think it's pretty
CE,
good.
It's
right? I mean, it's not as utilitarian as the Lancer and
I guess so. It has its functions, but on the higher difficulties, it becomes next to useless and legendary. You just can't use it. So I guess I have a preference with Reach. Reach has a lot more weapon variety, obviously, as the last game in the series or in Bungie's series. So there's a lot more to choose from. I do love the DMR. I think it's pretty slick. Yeah, I guess I go with DMR is pretty slick.
I'm trying to remember the pistol and Reach. We've had this lovely pistol for so long.
The pistol and Reach is useless.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it's they made it better. It is good. It's better. It's closer to CE than all the other games before it. So like they obviously will talk about it, but they ruined it in 2. Tried to bring it back with 3, but really didn't. And Reach, ODST's pistol is pretty solid. But Reach's pistol is the closest to CE.
Vehicles, real quick. What about vehicles? So I mean, Reach, again, I already kind of said it. I feel like the Reach's vehicles are better, but they're not. It's just interesting to see kind of the, they're laying the seeds. They're saying like the Warthog, you can't even destroy it in CE, right? And this is kind of what you're dealing with. But finding a vehicle in CE was so cool, and they gave it to you really early, right? And it was clearly integral and part of the series, and we probably should have talked about this during the kind of our recap of CE, but just the fact that vehicles are so much a part of the entire experience, that's something that really sets Halo in general apart from other first-person shooters.
That's true, actually. Yeah, it's a good point. That the vehicles in Halo are as iconic as the weapons that you use, and for a shooter, that's probably pretty rare. I think Reach has the better vehicles. I love all the Warthog variations. I think they're pretty awesome. I know Halo CE on the PC had vehicle variations that Warthogs and stuff like that we didn't have, like Rocket Hogs and all this kind of stuff, which I think you can now get in Master Chief Collection, I think. Yeah, I think if you play the PC maps in Halo CE, you can get some of those vehicles. Like the Rocket Hog and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's just like what you think, a jackhammer kind of rocket launcher on the back of a Warthog. But it's got some other cool stuff. I love the is it the Spectre? The kind of mini Wraith. I really think that's really cool. Oh no, the Spectre's the Brute thing, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, what am I thinking of?
Oh.
I think I'm going to call it Spectre because I'm blanking on what it's called.
Oh, the Revenant?
There we go.
Oh, God, the Revenant is so good.
I love that. Oh, the little mini Wraith. It's just totally badass.
It's like a Wraith. I think we talked about a Wraith and a Ghost had a baby. That's what a Revenant is.
I love in games that let you fly with flying vehicles. I like that, so I do like the Falcon. Using it's pretty cool. That one mission, like I think the Long Night of Solace. No, the Long Night of Solace. Oh yeah, God, Reach has the spaceship.
New Alexandria.
Yeah,
New
right.
Alexandria.
Yeah, I guess we didn't even talk about that. Yeah, I mean,
it's got great missions for that. For like that are Halo was good for that, for giving you a mission, in the course of the games. Most of them do that's kind of heavily vehicle based, and Reach has got some great moments for that.
Yeah.
With like one of the best missions in all of Halo, which is the Long Night of Solace, and then you also have New Alexandria. I think is where you're going around at nighttime, in the Falcon, and it's pretty cool.
Krysta, what's the best vehicle in Reach?
Oh, it's either hands down the Revenant or the Banshee. Both of them are so much fun.
The Banshee's really good in Reach, you're right, Krysta.
It is. It's a lot of fun. I want to say the Saber that you play in that one mission, but it's just that one mission you can play it, and it's not in multiplayer or anything else, so I don't consider it a playable vehicle. It's just a mission-specific vehicle.
Krysta.
Oh, come on. You can't even put it in Forge. If it's not in Forge, it's not a real vehicle. It's so nice. Mission-specific. It is really fun. Oh, God. That mission was super iconic to Halo Reach. It was one of those holy shit moments.
It's interesting. I'll probably talk about this as the series goes on, but I'm enjoying driving Banshees more and more as I just kind of get to use them more. And I think that the way that they've refined the Banshee over time and made it more useful, and you can drive it drives better, and it has additional. It has the cannon on top of just the plasma, whatever they call it, rifle on it. But yeah, I'm liking the Banshee more and more. Obviously, I love the Scorpion, and the Scorpion in Reach is better than the Scorpion in CE.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of weaker. I think in terms of you don't have the chain gun. That's like a second person has to manage that. In the first game, you had a chain gun, a minigun that you could use as well. I guess that game is more for solo play than anything else. But I do like when you go into the new graphics of Anniversary, you can see where that little kind of seat would be with the movable turret, which I would kind of liked. That they tied that back in. But yeah, it's cool. Scorpion is obviously an iconic vehicle.
What about enemies in general? How do you guys, Krysta, talk about the enemies? People
the enemies.
In the face.
I mean, most of the enemies have kept pretty consistent throughout the Halo series. There is 0 Flood in Halo Reach, which is nice, but at the same time, a lot of people like that. At the same time, like, the Flood are so important to the Halo series. It was weird seeing a game without them, but it wouldn't make sense for the Flood to be there canonically.
I appreciated a game where the full enemy was Covenant. All you fought was Covenant throughout the game. I really enjoyed that.
They did a really good job at, really diversifying the elites. They have like 5 or 6 different
types of jackals and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, they added the skirmishers in, which are the little feathery jackals, which never show up ever again.
Yeah, we killed them all.
But
the one thing that stands out for me is just the I guess the AI of the enemies. They're a lot smarter. Again, that's just a natural evolution. But I like how the elites jump around, and they act a little bit more like a human enemy. There's something to be said about the simplicity again of the original Covenant, and then the chaos that the Flood brings. So yeah, I guess thinking about it, just adding the Flood in CE makes those engagements so much more frustrating but interesting, I think. So, I almost might say I like the enemies in CE better. That's interesting.
Well, the Flood added this undermining element of just, chaos. Which is really iconic. Terror. Yeah, and terror, which was really iconic to Halo CE. Now, you don't have, like, chaos or terror in Halo Reach. It's mostly just depression. It's just a lot of sadness and, seeing a planet slowly fall. But the Covenant never really... Like, the Covenant and Reach are never as pressing as I feel like the Flood were in Halo CE.
Yeah, if I don't have the Flood to shoot in a Halo game, I miss shooting the Flood. So I think just having them in there makes it more Halo for me. So I would say I like the enemies better in CE. That's weird. saying that out loud. Come to that revelation right now. Anything else to add on enemies?
They're pretty cool. There's a lot of enemies in Reach. All the various factions are represented well and come off well together. All the different elites, there's brutes, hunters, you got it all.
Yeah.
Well, they also did a very good job at diversifying the enemies in Halo Reach. They all act really, really different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I feel like CE did that as well as it could at the time, but I think Halo Reach had more of a personality just for how enemies walk around or how they'll come into an encounter and stuff. Like, fighting a group of elites and a group of brutes in Reach is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. And also, obviously the hunters in CE have that weak spot, which makes them fun to exploit, but then you totally harmless once you know how.
What about...
That's pretty cool.
Let's talk about some level design in general. How do you feel about how Reach did? I guess Reach, knowing, there are many Halo games in. How do you think they did in terms of creating these challenging kind of maps for us to navigate through? David, what do you think about that?
I really liked Reach's level design. I thought it was pretty cool. It didn't do the whole thing that Halo does, or that Bungie used to do, which is go back, play another level backwards.
Right.
So I enjoyed the different environments. The mission settings were pretty cool. I mean, okay, you do go back to Sword Base, so there is that, but I enjoyed both those missions for what they were, and it made sense. They tied it in quite well with the story. For the most part, I did really enjoy. I would say prefer Reach's level design. I mean,
that's fair though. I mean, even though it's
a newer game.
Newer game, and
I can
more
appreciate
variety.
Exactly what they did. I mean, obviously, I love CE, and those missions and levels are just so ingrained in me. The layouts and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll always enjoy playing them. For the time that they were made, they were pretty cool. I mean, Halo, it starts off as a corridor shooter, essentially, in the first mission, where you're in the corridors of a ship, and then you get this big, expansive level right off the bat, with vehicles to drive around and explore, and it felt so huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty damn impressive at the time. And so, we have to think about it's what's fun to kind of compare these two games over the breadth of the years that they came out, and the difference between them, and how far a company can push and come with their development.
Krysta, playing CE again, how are you feeling about the trudge, the journey versus Reach?
The thing about like between CE and Reach is Reach definitely has these crazy set designs and just stuff going on. There's stuff going on all the time, but there's something really alien about the way that the level designs of Halo CE are. They really make you feel like you're not around anything you're used to. It's very strange and alien and vast and almost empty. Which, I mean, I think it's just the setting in general. The setting is a human planet versus a alien construct. But I think the Halo CE levels are much more iconic than the Halo Reach levels just because of where it is.
Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I think I would say CE.
Oh, okay.
I agree with that, actually, because CE. I feel like so many I feel like maybe I'll change my answer once we play some of the other games, but I feel like Reach is trying very hard to mimic the experience that you're getting in CE from the kind of those things that you said, Krysta, kind of that vastness of a few of the levels that, I'm sure all of the games are trying to live up to that original experience, but it felt more forced in Reach. I definitely like the variety. Obviously you can fly spaceships at some point, which is awesome. But it's something about going back to Reach or to CE and just playing through these campaigns or the missions again, and just getting lost again, even though you hate it, but you kind of like it at the same time. It's probably a nostalgia thing, but I feel like I like CE better, and it's weird because I don't really have nostalgia for it because I didn't play it until later. But it felt, playing it later, you still realize that you're playing an early game. But there's something special about those missions. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. It's. I think I'd like the CE level design better. All right, 2 more categories I just want to cover off on lore and characters, and they kind of tie in together specifically. Lore-wise, we're all going to say CE, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a complicated matter because
it is.
The lore is pretty light in CE, but is really interesting for what it is, and how they set it up is really cool. And obviously, spinning out of CE came all the books and all the kind of amazingness. But just looking at the game itself, like the kind of story and lore for Reach is kind of unique, but also very kind of controversial in the Halo community because of all the changes and dates and inconsistencies between the book and the game and stuff like that. So I guess I would probably say CE, just from purely I enjoyed the story of that game probably more. But the feel of Reach, I think they did a really good job of like setting the tone of that game. Do you know what I mean? It is a losing battle, and they lose before the game was launched. So that was such a kind of cool.
Well, they added the brutes in there, which is kind of cool.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm CE all the way. It's because I mentioned it before in an earlier episode. I almost walked away from the series after playing Reach. I was like, what did they do? Because I had already read the book. I'm like, oh, how did they screw this up? I've come to terms with it since then. But CE, the initial writing and all the seeds that they laid, I think is fantastic. Krysta, how about you?
Same. I think CE was able to tell a really cool story with very little ability to tell a story. Like they weren't able to do crazy cut scenes or set designs or anything like that. And they were able to tell a really cohesive, interesting, and engaging story with the little stuff they had. And also, like we've said previously, there was a lot of missteps in Halo Reach's lore, which is why it will never register on my lore radar, really. It's just it's pretty messy what they did with Halo Reach.
Yeah, we won't get into everything.
We love it what it is, but it wasn't what we wanted it to be.
There's plenty of resources to go online, check that out. So we're not gonna, and that would be another number of episodes for us to get into all that. So check that out at your leisure. Character-wise, how did you feel about the players that they brought to the table on Reach, David? People that
Reach, I really liked them. To be honest, I did. I liked the characters. I liked your team. It was pretty cool. Why am I totally blanking on Noble Team? I really liked each individual character seemed to have a specific job and function. They were designed differently. They looked very different. They were kind of a cohesive unit. I really did get that vibe off them. I really liked them. Having said that,
and it's really it's all about them. And then there's Halsey.
Yes, so obviously
about it. I mean, there's a Covenant, but
getting Halsey into a game was amazing because she was not in any of the games, which is crazy to think about. But which we mentioned before. But like getting to see Halsey is pretty cool. Her interaction with George was just like, oh yes, give it to me. Do you know what I mean? It was so cool.
And then there's that AI that's just talks at some point.
Dot.
Yeah.
Dot.
And
she's like a dumb AI, so like there's very much there's Colonel Holland, but other than that, there's not really a whole lot going on.
Colonel Holland, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's cool. I mean, obviously they had like a book cameo in there, which was really cool, and New Alexandria. So I really appreciated that. And I don't know, there are some cool facets to it. And then obviously CEA has the characters, so like you have Cortana and John. I mean, John isn't much of a character in this game, but we know that's like first-person shooters back then. Do you know what I mean? They weren't known for their story, and silent protagonists were all the norm. And even we're still getting silent protagonists today, which I hate in games. I liked to be a character.
Right. Playing CE again now, I feel like CE is all about Cortana and Guilty Spark in my mind, because those are like the big personalities.
Yeah. Well, Halo CE doesn't have a lot to take from character-wise. They really focused more on the story itself than the individual characters.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't any Covenant characters, which is kind of interesting. Or really in the game, there isn't any Flood characters, which
they're
is
just
kind of
faceless
interesting
bad
to think
guys,
about.
right? They're the guys
exactly.
you point your gun at.
just aliens. But it's interesting that there are characters we just didn't know they were at the time. So that was kind of like the Arbiter was obviously there at some stage, and like we mentioned, there's like I'm blanking on his name, but there was like an assassin who was coming through, like a zealot trying to chase John all through the map, and like the Flood books and kind of the Flood book even kind of fleshes all that out and brings those characters into play. So I guess maybe Reach, do you know what I mean? Just in terms of a preference of, but that's just storytelling. I mean, it's just a newer game. Do you know, they were doing something more specific.
Yeah, in games back
stage.
Back in the early 2000s, they didn't do much for setting up your enemy in terms of, if they're sympathetic characters at all, or just giving some backstory. It was just
not for a shooter anyway, at least.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Krysta, anything to add there, character-wise?
CE didn't really CE has characters, but they don't have much. Like, they don't have a lot to choose from, and I think Halo Reach is superior just because there was character development and there's interactions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it almost feels like Halo Reach actually had characters, and then, Halo CE had just dialogues to progress the story.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think, thinking about it, I'm waffling back and forth, but I think maybe, David, you convinced me that Reach has the better characters.
Yes.
Even though it's weird to say, though, because everything, all the established stuff, the people we know of, Chief and Cortana, but
I'm just thinking of it in terms of the game. I mean, in terms of the game's release. I mean, in terms of, like, obviously John is a character I care more about than anyone in Reach. The same goes for Cortana. But I guess Reach was a story about those characters as opposed to Halo CE, which was just a story. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily about John.
Right.
It was just a story. But it's cool. It just feel weird to say. I think Reach.
Yeah. Yeah, this is weird. So I'm gonna say, I'll start. You guys think about it. You, David, you're kind of typing notes as we're doing this, and you're kind of, if I add up the math, per category, it looks like Reach edges it out for me. But I do think Reach. Maybe. I enjoy playing Reach more than CE as from an entire experience. David, how about you? Which one do you prefer?
Enjoyed playing. I think I still enjoyed CE. Definitely this time around when we replayed it anyway. Mm-hmm. But I think I'll always enjoy CE more than most of the other Halo games, just for what it is and what it was, and because I think the remake is so beautiful, and I so love the Master Chief Collection's take on it. That adding the skulls and the playlists and all that kind of stuff is just fun. So much fun. I love this game.
Krysta, are you sick of Reach yet? You've played 1 billion hours.
Yeah, I
She's
have.
Crazy.
I've played a lot. Well, that game came out at like the perfect time. I was in high school, so it was the game I was able to play a lot. It just came out in a sweet spot in my life. But I think overall CE definitely wins it, just because, well, CE has more of an impact on the universe, especially lore-wise, because, I mean, like, compared to gameplay, the weapons, the vehicles, all the stuff we've talked about, I think lore is always the biggest pull for a game for me. Like, I could care less about gameplay. I would rather be there for a really good story.
Well, yeah, but the gameplay has to be good enough.
The gameplay has to be, well, the gameplay has to be decent, but I think the story is really what keeps me coming back to games and keeps me engaged. I find that if a game doesn't have a good story, I kind of just give up after a while, even if the gameplay is fantastic. So, I think CE wins it just because of that. I think Reach did a lot of things right, but a lot of things wrong. And I think Reach had more missteps than Halo CE.
Sure. Yeah. Especially talking lore-wise.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're about done. We just wanted to read off some community input as well. Krysta, did you post anything on Twitter for kind of thoughts on between the two games? I'm forgetting. I know we did on Facebook. Okay, that's right. No worries. We had some good...
I did a poll, but I didn't do anything comparatively.
That's right. Yeah. We did do a post in our Facebook group, and so, David, if you can pull that up, we can just talk through some people's... We kind of compared the same categories, so we just asked, which one is better between Halo CE and Halo Reach, between gameplay, weapons, vehicles, enemies, level design, lore, and characters. And we had a number of people pop in and just kind of actually they went through and just outlined each of those. I was more or less just like in general, but people like went and bullet pointed them all. So I'm not sure if you're able to find that yet, David, but it's in there, and
Give me a second.
some good
please.
input.
Scroll.
Yeah, it might be a little ways down.
Filling airtime while I scroll for stuff.
Yeah, I filled it as well as I could there.
You could have done a better job, Colin.
I give you 30 seconds at least.
Yeah, but there's so many things in the group.
Oh, you can just cut it out with movie magic, David.
Wait, this is podcast gold. I want to edit this out. Colin, when did you actually do this?
I did a while ago.
Like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh my god, man, it's a lot of scrolling. Come on.
We don't have that many posts.
Here we go.
Find it?
Got some comments. Yeah, I got it. Okay. A couple of comments. A lot of things pretty well detailed. So Jesse White is Halo Reach completely violated the established lore. So always you get CE. So we're going to get a lot of answers like that, I guess. In our group in particular, I'm not surprised. Timothy Welch is Reach CE Reach. What did he have to do? Oh, he answered the questions in order.
In order, right?
He liked Reach more than CE by the looks of it. How he rated it, just Reach, CE, Reach. So, in terms of your topics you uploaded, then we got Ian, who went really in depth. Yeah, I guess a lot of the points kind of we said before. He didn't like the Reach weapons, Ian. He also didn't like obviously the lore.
Mm-hmm.
Reach, the mood of Reach really is kind of what said it, I think. You know how you feel accomplishing your missions. That's actually pretty cool. He was completely unaware of the lore inconsistency at the time. There's probably a lot of players that were like that who just didn't know.
Didn't read the book, and then we read the book second.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. It's a weird thing.
So he voted for more Reach than CE in this. Tyler Mordecai, it's a cool name. CE because everything of the Overpower Magnum. Oh, he's dummy right. Yeah, Master Chief, Keys, Johnson. Oh, Johnson. We never spoke about Johnson. Who is...
We'll talk
so
Johnson.
He's the minorest of... He's just, what is it, comic relief? That's what he is. Him and Guilty Spark.
He's less of a character in that until Halo 2. So
right.
it didn't really make him as one. And Jordan DeBose says Reach is one of the best Sultan stories? I don't know what that means. Sortan stories. I don't know what that means.
Could it be misspelling? Anyway, is that it?
I don't know, or a fancy word for something. Matthew Lunt has, I think, overall CE1 for Matthew. Good man. He gave the correct answer.
I could have called
Tyler
that
Pro.
for Matt.
Yeah, Halo SVP 3 wins on all accounts. That's pretty cool. That was like it's a Halo PC mod. It's kind of like I think it's a fan-made thing. It's like a fully remade game. They incorporated a whole bunch of changes from Reach, like, into Halo CEA. I always kind of wanted to play it, but never really got around to it because it's a PC thing. Reach wins on the game engine. So that's fair enough. Miles Dill kind of likes CE more than anything else by the looks of it. Reach, he's a CE guy.
I love reading Miles' comments because they're so like fact. Like he's like, this is better. He doesn't like really leave it one way or the other. Yeah. He's very opinionated.
Better gameplay, reaches a larger and more complex sandbox. Yeah, that's fair enough. C is most rounded and memorable cast out of the entire saga. So he feels kind of different than we do. Reach through the sheer amount of diversity and variation. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Albert Alvala prefers C in general for pretty much everything. He didn't find it to violate much of the lore, to be honest. If it does, it's negligible in part C for weapons, charts, enemies. I guess what he means. Starts the lore, he likes CE better, just because it starts the lore and expands outwards. It's true. It's true. So, good shout out, guys.
Nice. All right, we are on to Halo 2. We just gave you another hour of Halo goodness to chew on before we get into just a lot of lore at the beginning of this game. We'll get in depth. We'll kind of set the stage, and then we'll start shooting some more Covenant for you. That will do it for our debriefing of, I guess it's our comparison show, our bookend Bungie show. Halo Reach, Halo Combat Evolved. On the next episode, we'll be covering the opening missions from Halo 2. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolved.
Evolved.